Hey, FlimsyLunchTray here, and welcome to World of Warships for our Saturday edition video, which is going to be an upgrade and commander build video here on the Tier 5 American light cruiser, the Marblehead Lima. Now, I did feature a Friday highlight of this build, this ship. I'll tag it at the end of the video if you want to check that out. But this is basically, it's an Omaha light class cruiser. It is very similar to the Tier 5 Tech Tree American light cruiser, the Omaha, but with the Marblehead and then the Marblehead Lima. There is some few minor differences with these ships in the game. Now at Tier 5, when we talk about what type of cruiser is this, I mean, yes, it is a light cruiser, but it's not a brawling light cruiser by any means or any stretch of the imagination. You get fewer torpedoes even than what Omaha already gets. You only get 6 torpedoes versus 12 torpedoes that Omaha has. But they are longer range torpedoes with a slightly faster reload time. But part of the trade-off is you get slightly faster reloading guns, which is kind of why I like playing it a little bit more than the Omaha. But she's best played in concealment, behind islands, behind with smoke screens. If you're open gunboating, which I have another video on I can throw at the end of this too, open gunboating in Omaha, then you're definitely going to want to have good map awareness, so on and so forth. So really a mid-range, and when we talk about mid-range, let me pull up the artillery. We have 13.9 kilometer range, and our concealment is 11.8. So I do actually like trying to play in 10 kilometers and back. You don't really want to be even closer to that. You really want to be playing in that, perhaps that 11 to 14 kilometer window, if you will. Get much closer. As long as there's not a battleship around and you're angling, then maybe you can deal with the enemy cruisers and destroyers alright with your hydro, but you really want to be saving any pushing for the later half of the game here in Omaha. And going over the armor, we have 13mm aft end and fore-end plating here. You can see we actually have a 76 armor belt on our Citadel armor. And then just above, we have a 16mm armor here. So it's a little bit stronger in the midsection. And it's kind of ironic. It's kind of weird, just some of the foreign platings that they have even further down beneath. And actually, you can see a little bit back here. So maybe it's helping protect your rudder a little bit more. I don't know. But when we start stripping the armor away, and that's the Citadel you have. So basically, if you want to think of it this way, normally you would kind of picture the Citadel for most, when you get into higher tiers, right, it kind of just goes all the way across, from your rear turret to your forward turret. They didn't do that here on the Marblehead. That'd probably be a little overkill because you'd just be this massive giant Citadel. I mean, and you're already pretty large Citadel. But the weakness is beneath the smokestack. So if you see an enemy Omaha, Marblehead Lima, Murmansk, then you're going to be wanting to aim underneath to get that Citadel. Which means, and I say that, for you as a Marblehead Lima player, you need to be aware of this weakness, and that can be easily exploited, even destroyers to get it close enough. I think I've been Citadel. I think it's possible Citadel if the destroyer gets close enough, having enough pin to punch through. But definitely with cruisers and battleships in the game, I think even a CV can actually Citadel you with rocket strikes. If not also the dive bombers. Because, I mean, it's a big Citadel, right? Even from above. You just aim for the smokestacks, that's what you get. Now, your armor on your guns is 25mm all around, even on the back, rear plating. So it's easy to have them knocked out, but, I mean, that's going to be a lot of guns for an enemy player to have to knock out when you have, just from the front here, 6 guns. 4, and then a double mount here, right? And then you have the same story when you get to the back, also 6 guns. So we'll talk a little bit about that with the upgrade in commander build as we go into looking first at our modules. So being a premium ship, there's nothing to upgrade here. Our guns right now have a reload time of 6.7 seconds before anything like Adrenaline Rush or Top Grade Gunner were to kick in. Minimum shell type switching time is 2.7 seconds, mainly because of Halsey. One of the build I'm running on him is for the gun feeder, so switching between high explosive and armor piercing, which Marblehead does have decent armor piercing with these 152mm guns. If you catch a cruiser out broadside and he's at least close enough where your shells aren't just like coming straight down on top of a ship at range, I do recommend definitely switching over to the armor piercing. Your HE shell damage is 2,200. Your maximum AP shell damage is 3,100. And you see the 180-degree turn time here of 20 seconds. So we can shorten that too if we want as well, which I think we have with one of the skills we have on Halsey. In terms of hit points, you have 29,250 hit points, and this is also with Survivability Expert on Halsey, on our commander. So I do recommend running that here on the Marblehead. And then you can see, you have your 10 turrets, you have 5 on the front, 5 on the rear, and then your torpedo tubes 2, and then your AA mounts 4. So not much AA happening here. I think the AA rating, yeah, it's 15, so it's not really good AA at all. The Omaha has better AA rating, or Marblehead Lima just isn't an AA cruiser. Here you have your torpedoes. They have 80-degree turn time of 6 seconds. Torpedo tube reload time, 38 seconds. Your torpedo range is 8.2 kilometers. So longer than what the actual Omaha has. And let me check with Omaha. I think in yesterday's video I said 5.5. Yeah, that's true. But you can see that actually these torpedoes do more damage than the Marblehead Lima torpedoes do. So typically I try to throw these out while I'm kiting away as an example, if I know there's a ship going to be pushing in or kind of a defense mechanism. Sometimes you get lucky with these torps, but they're pretty slow at only 49 knots. But again, we have that 38-second reload time, so you can spam them quite frequently. Your gunfire control system, your main battery firing range is 13.9 kilometers here. So that is really nice to see here. If you see tier 7s, I have played this ship in Omaha against tier 7s. It's not fun. You're really on high alert in those situations. But you don't want to be, you want to be playing, that 11 to 14 kilometer window here. Otherwise, if you push in too close, you can die quite quickly early on in the game, especially in waiting till later in the game to maybe start closing the distance more often. So try to use, again, smokes and islands when possible when dealing with enemy ships in randoms battle as an example. Looking at our upgrades here, we have taken the main Armaments Modification 1. This is reducing the risk of our main battery and our torpedo tubes becoming incapacitated by negative 20%. Your main battery and torpedo tube survivability is plus 50%, and our main battery and torpedo tube repair time, if either should be incapacitated, is reduced by negative 20%, meaning we get them both up faster. Really, it's the clear winner here in looking at the first slot. We're not building into AA, you have no secondaries. Let me just make sure I'm saying that correctly. Yeah, that's correct. And then your magazine modification reduces the risk of your ship's magazine detonating by negative 70%. You just take the Juliet Charlie combat signal, which completely eliminates the risk of your ship's magazine detonating. And then we wouldn't worry about damage control party modification 1, which increases your consumable action time. Here it's only 5 seconds, but that's typical for cruisers, so you would only be adding this a few seconds more, so just not really worth it here. There's some other ships that much better to run that upgrade on. Second slot, we've taken engine room protection. As you saw, the armor is pretty light just across the ship as a whole, so we want to be able to reduce the risk of our engine and steering gears becoming incapacitated by negative 20%, and then your engine repair time and steering gears repair time, negative 20% there as well. Now, there is another option if you are willing to give that up. I would recommend as well the hydroacoustic search modification 1, which extends the action time of your hydroacoustic search by plus 20%. Here you can see it's 100 seconds, so you'd be adding 20 seconds, so bump up to 120 second action time, which maybe if I had that, I don't remember the timing, but maybe I wouldn't have eaten one of those torpedoes, I think, from enemy cruiser if I had that up, but it might have already gone down even before then if I even had this on. So you can have that longer hydroacoustic action time if you so desire. So to me, it's tempting, I'm not gonna lie, just because you have a rather large concealment radius and there's a lot of destroyers and it's now submarines, so there is definitely food for thought for this special upgrade. So between whether you take the engine protection or you want to take hydroacoustic search modification 1. Going here into the third slot, there's two options here. For now, I'm running the aiming systems mod 1. I'll put it on the right side of the screen here. Basically what it does, it reduces your maximum main battery shell dispersion. That's the main reason why I take this, so your horizontal and vertical dispersion is reduced by negative 7%. So then you're shaving off, I don't know, it's probably like between 5 to 12 meters off of the vertical and horizontal. So you have more accurate shell groupings, which, as you saw in yesterday's game, we had a lot of destroyers we were shooting at. And then there was a sub as well, but shooting at destroyers, I like that a little bit better in terms of accuracy with the range. Now that's up to you, but you can also look at running the main battery mod 2, which improves your main battery traverse speed by plus 15%. Now I'm not opposed to having the 20 seconds between the enhanced skill that we have on Halsey for the grease the gears or your turret traverse being improved. I can live with it. It's alright by me. But maybe for you as a cruiser player, you want even something lower. Maybe you want to get down to 17, 18 seconds as an example. Then you can run the main battery mod 2. It's always up to you to try it out. It's only 500,000 credits. I say only 500,000. You know, if you're a newer player, maybe it's a little bit more tighter budget for you. I understand. I've been there. I'm still a new player on my EU account. I don't always have a lot of money, but it's getting better as I get some more higher tier ships. So I just lean towards more accurate guns and the likelihood of my shells landing where I'm aiming. So I tend to lean towards aiming systems mod 1, as I can live with 20 seconds on my main battery traverse speed. Beyond that, talking about the armament, you have high explosive shells. They have a 12% chance of causing a fire on a target. They do 2,200 damage. They pin 25 millimeters, so you're going to pin most things except probably the battleships and some of the like decks of aircraft carriers that you might run into at tier 4, tier 6. So they're good. They have good fire setting chance. You can bump that up a little bit more, which I tend to in running both of those combat signals. So I get up to 13%. I think if you took Demolition Expert, I don't know if they call something else now, you could get up to 14%. So having these guns that fire every 6.7 seconds, or even lower depending on circumstances of the battle, you have good fire potential starting opportunities as a tier 5 cruiser here in World Warships. Your armor piercing, which unfortunately I didn't demonstrate in yesterday's video, is good. Again, these are 152mm guns. They do maximum damage at 3,100. I've definitely used them before in games, especially when I'm dealing with other cruisers, and let's say they're broadside to me 10 kilometers away. Then I definitely switched to armor piercing. We were just dealing a lot more with the destroyers and submarine in this game, and a battleship really far away, so we wouldn't have utilized armor piercing in that situation. And then for Ataka, he was far enough away where the angle of my shells probably would have more done ricocheting, I think, against that enemy Hawkins. So I just stuck with the high explosive in that situation. So don't sleep on the armor piercing. It is good when you have the opportunity to fire on such targets. Torpedoes, 30-second reload time. You only get 6 torpedoes. Your torpedo range is 8.2 kilometers. They do almost less than half the damage of the Omaha torpedoes, only 6,233. Torpedo speed, 49 knots. So they are pretty easy to avoid. Of course, for a battleship that might wander into them at tier 5, he's going to have a lot more difficulty in terms of his speed and maneuverability to avoid. But destroyers and cruisers should have a decent amount of time to avoid this, because these aren't fast torpedoes. I mean, they're slower than Elbing and Schlieffen torpedoes, which are 55 knots, I believe, if you're already playing high tier. Now, with the depth charge airstrike, you have a reload time of 20 seconds. With some of the perks, adrenaline rush and stuff, I think we had ours around 16 seconds when we were dealing with an enemy sub. You get 1 available flight, 1 attack aircraft in flight, 2,000 hit points, and 1 bomb per payload. Maximum bomb damage 2,900. So it doesn't have a long range, 5 kilometers, so you're kind of more dealing it with when a sub is pushing in on you, as an example, or you catch a submarine off guard, which I guess both of those things happened in yesterday's video with the 1 submarine player. So at least you don't have ship base depth charges, right? That helped us out a lot more in dealing with that enemy sub. Consumable-wise, your damage control party has an action time of 5 seconds. Cooldown time, 60 seconds. You have an unlimited number of charges. So you're going to utilize these, you know, when you're set ablaze. Maybe you have 2 fires on your ship. I tend to wait to use it. Now, you don't have a heal here on Marblehead Lima. So use your damage control party wisely. Definitely want to put out floods, of course. And then we have the hydroacoustic search. It detects torpedoes 3 kilometers away. Detection of ships 4 kilometers away. Spotting a submarine at maximum depth 2 kilometers away. 100-second action time, we talked about that we could bump that up to 120 seconds with the special upgrade of the hydroacoustic search modification 1, which is 17,000 coal. But with the coupon, you can get down to just over 12,000. If you're a new player in the game and you've picked up this ship, I would probably recommend you just take engine room protection. Use that coal to get some of maybe other higher tier ships in the game or commanders in the game before really beginning to invest into your special upgrades, would be my general advice. Cooldown time of 120 seconds. We can shorten that, of course, with the November Foxtrot. Get it down to 114 seconds. And then our damage control party will be 57 seconds. I'll take it off here as we look at the fighter. You get 2 fighters in each flight. Action radius of 3 kilometers. Action time 60 seconds. Cooldown time 90 seconds. Number of consumables 4. Now you're not going to be able to prevent a first strike from an enemy aircraft carrier or hybrid ship at the lower tier attacking you. Maybe you prevent the second strike, or at least you have thinned down the second strike. You also utilize fighters if you want to pop it and see if there's a destroyer maybe running up along an island behind you. It's nice to kind of use it as a spotting advantage technique to see what's on the other side of the island. So that's something to take advantage of as well. Or maybe you're in a smoke screen and you want to see what's happening on around you. Pop your fighter and you'll see a little bit of the action in your immediate radius. And with November Foxtrot, we get that down to 85.5 second cooldown time. In terms of other combat signals I run here, I do take the Sarah Mike. Maneuverability is 34 knots. With this, we're going up to 35.7. So actually pretty nice for a tier 5 cruiser, not going to lie. And then I'll also take Sarah Bravo, and this is going to increase our action time on our hydroacoustic search. So then we get up to 110 seconds. So then with the special upgrade, you'd be looking at, 131 seconds. Just to keep that in mind. I tend to run a RAM flag just cause. You never know when you might need it. There are those funny instances where you just end up having to take the RAM from an enemy battleship or cruiser, or even a destroyer or submarine, right? So then you cause 50% additional damage, and you take negative 20% less damage when ramming an enemy. This is normally all the combat signals I run. If you really want to, you could also take in Yankee just to reduce your fire extinguishing time if you're trying to take a little bit of a load off your damage control party, as an example. That's really up to you, or increase your flooding chance on your torpedoes. But otherwise, this is pretty much what I run here. In terms of our build, I'll take Halsey off here, but let me just show you what he does. He's obtainable through a campaign here in the game that you'll eventually need up to, like, I think tier 8 ships in the game to get. But two of the things I like about running Halsey, besides getting the Confederate skill that we got yesterday, which reduced our reload time, where I think we were around 4.6 seconds, negative 20% reload time main battery, and then torpedo tube reload time is negative 10%. I think I may have said negative 20% for torpedoes. Oh, excuse me, negative 10% for yesterday's video. Aircraft preparation time, negative 20%, so that's why we were getting our airstrike depth charge up even faster, and understanding that correctly. And then if you got a double strike, your concealment would be reduced, so that would be helpful on Omaha, right? You can drop that down just a little bit more. But he has 2 enhanced skills. One is the grease the gears, so we have a plus 20% on our main battery traverse speed versus plus 15%. And then rather than having a negative 40% in our shell switching time, it's a negative 60%. So this is, I like running this build in general here on Omaha. Marblehead Lima. It's Omaha class cruiser, but Marblehead. But I'm gonna send him to the reserve, or maybe I don't know if I actually have him here. Recall commander. Yeah. I'll put a new commander on just as we overlook the ship. So kind of talking about from the ground up how might you want to utilize a 21-point build, but I'll try to emphasize more on the 21-point build. So without that negative 20% grease the gears, you can see now we're at 24 seconds. So if I put that on, then I'm down to 20.9 seconds. But the first skill we're going to go for is Last Stand. The ship remains partially able to sustain speed and maneuverability with the engine and steering gears incapacitated. This is really important to have as a tier 5 cruiser in World Warships. You definitely want this, need this, gotta have it. So I definitely, that's just like a yes, have to take it. Now for myself, because Omaha is a light class cruiser with that massive citadel as we showed you in the beginning of this video, I like running Priority Target here on Marblehead Lima. This shows how many ships are currently aiming at your ship with your main battery guns. So it makes you more aware of maybe when you might need to go dark, disengage, maybe you need to angle towards the battleship or cruiser that's aiming at you as an example. Also, when a destroyer is switching between his main battery turrets and its torpedoes, it goes from, like, let's say 1 to you're detected, 1 to detected. So that just means that he's probably launching his torpedoes at you. So that's just another perk to having there. Then after this, there's a few routes you can go for a 6-point build. You can see our hit points have dropped to 27,000. Then again, 29,250 with Survivability Expert. So you could say I want a more of a larger hit point pool. I want to have that 4th catapult fighter and hydroacoustic search. Or myself, I tend to, for a 6-point build, opt for Adrenaline Rush here. In reducing a main battery reload time as you lose your health, which is why you saw the again, the airstrike, our main battery reload time and torpedoes were reloading even faster. So I like to have that. Increases your damage per minute as a tier 5 light cruiser here in the game. Then for a 10-point build, I would take Concealment Expert, ship's detectability range, -10%. Without it, you're 13.1, and your main battery firing range is 13.9. So the Concealment Expert is really a must to run here on the Marblehead Lima. After this, I would probably then go for... This is a good 10-point build, okay? Let's say you have a commander that has more than 10 points. Then I'm just trying to figure out how would I like to go different from here. There's 2 ways you can go. One is I would say go for Survivability Expert first, just to have a larger hit point pool, or go for Grease the Gears. That'd be an 11-point build. If you really can't stand that 24-second, I believe is what we said it was, 180-degree turn time, you could do that as 11-point build. And then after that, for a 14-point build, take Survivability Expert. And then myself, I tend to like to run the Superintendent. If you die a lot as a cruiser player in the first half of the battle, Superintendent might not have any value for you. Just saying in general, if you like being more of an aggressive cruiser player. Myself, I tend to... cruisers in World Warships have the best utility and impact on the game in the last half of the battle. So I do really try to... not play on the back line, but try to play wisely and smartly in retaining my hit points as much as possible, so that in the last half of the battle, I've not run out of my consumables, and I still have a decent amount of hit points to play with when possible. Now, unfortunately, we took that torpedo yesterday, so that trimmed us down more than I would feel comfortable going in the last half of the battle, but it is what it is. But for myself, I would like to have that 4th hydroacoustic search, especially now that we have submarines and you're seeing them more at the lower tiers, right? When we see tier 6s. And just more, and destroyers, you know, there's a lot of I think there's a good amount of tier 5 destroyer players in the game, so I like to feel more comfortable in having that 4th hydroacoustic search. Then after that, then I myself might look towards taking the top grade gunner. I do like having this skill because, you know, our concealment is 11.8. At tier 5, the maps are smaller. And even if there's an island in the way, you know, as long as the ship is within your ship's main, how do they phrase it? Within your ship's standard detectability range, which would be 11.8. Now, we could not take concealment, right? And then we would have a larger radius of having this skill kick in of our main battery reload time being reduced by -8%. Secondary battery reload time doesn't matter because we don't have secondary battery here on Marblehead Lima. But you could be even more risky and take concealment, not take Concealment Expert, but in general, I would encourage you to take Concealment Expert and then look at taking the top grade gunner. And when you activate this, your reload time is going to drop to, what, 6.4? Just trying to guess math off the top of my head, maybe 6.3. Now, as you see here, I was talking about how I like running Halsey on here with this, because Halsey I don't run the last stand on. It's questionable behavior of me to not have run that even on Des Moines and Salem, but I definitely want the gun feeder on Salem and Des Moines. But in this example, because the last stand as a light cruiser player has a higher value than perhaps what you would want on a heavy cruiser, or the need for it is much higher. So in reality, the last stand is going to be much better than taking the gun feeder on Marblehead Lima in Omaha. Like, this would be my ideal 21 point commander build that I would equip and running here on Marblehead Lima, or even Omaha as an example. Just because, again, your light cruiser, you really need to be able to retain your speed and maneuverability, even though it's penalized, but it's better than just sitting dead in the water broadside to an Agincourt, HMS Agincourt, Arizona, New Mexico, New York, whatever, and just get deleted off the face of the planet. You want to be able to retain some speed and maneuverability if you don't have access to your damage control party. So it's a must. Now, alternative builds I might recommend here, well, I kind of just referenced it, and that is going for a lighthouse build, Marblehead Lima or Omaha as an example, where I would drop actually the Concealment Expert, and then you could say, hey, I want to take radio location instead. I want to know where exactly that destroyer or that submarine player that's stalking me, I want to know what general direction he's in. So then here I would see a really good use of having the radio location skill. Now, of course, if that bothers you so much, you want to know where the ships are closest to you, you could drop top grade gunner and take radio location. And I'm sure there are some tier 5 cruiser players with Omaha and Marblehead Lima that do this. This is the most safe build option, I would say. Now for top grade gunner, it's just kind of going more for that increasing your DPM, and because your concealment's already so poor to begin with, why not take advantage of that and increasing your DPM? Okay, so number 1 build, number 2 build, number 3 build would be a little dangerous, drop concealment, and then you could take radio location here. If you're like, hey Flimsy, I would rather try to take something else besides radio location, what would you recommend? I don't really know if there's much of a desire to run IFHE. I mean, granted, you're going to start pinning 31mm, but you're having your fire chance, so I kind of lean away from that from Marblehead Lima. You could increase your damage here with your having heavy HE, where you're now going to do 2,420 versus 2,200 damage, but then your concealment even blooms up further beyond your main battery firing range, so I don't know if I feel so comfortable recommending that. Again, you don't have secondaries. You could extend your hydro. I don't know, you could do something like that, but I don't know. You get 3 additional skills if you didn't go for RPF. If you're going for a more lighthouse build, you got your gun feeder. It's going to take shorter time for your hydro and your catapult fire to come off cooldown, and you've extended your action time. Probably what I would say, just looking at this, I'd do Demolition Expert. So you've increased your fire chance, and your damage radius when dealing with submarines is increased by plus 15%. That would be actually a really good one to run here. I don't know if this is enough. It's usually I only recommend taking consumables enhancements if you're gonna get. It's not just one consumable. It affects multiple consumables on your ship, but it only does the hydro here. So if you wanted to go for the hydro build with your special upgrade in slot 2, then I would say, yeah, this makes sense. Otherwise, I'd probably say, how about let's spread out those other 2 points for having a faster reload cooldown time on your catapult fighter and hydro, and get that shell switching time between the high explosive and armor piercing. But otherwise, the main build option I'm going to recommend is this. Second option I'd recommend is this. Third option I would recommend is this. And fourth option I would recommend would be something like this. Now, of course, you can play around between these things if you want. This is just my personal preferences and kind of what I could see this ship doing well and maybe not so well. But I hope that this video has covered most things, particularly with the commander. Let me know if you have any questions below, and if you have Marblehead Lima and you like running it here in World of Warships. So if you liked today's video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. Subscribe if you do want to see more. If you're subscribed, thanks so much. I really appreciate it. And thank you to my Patreon supporters, and we'll catch you next time. Take care.